Okay, well, um, hopefully I've covered everything I needed to cover on these fenders. Um, Everything's bolted up now where it's supposed to be. I've been working the door seams, trying to get them as even as possible, about a quarter of an inch all the way down, so that once it gets the buildup of heavy build primer and paint and clear, that hopefully that'll be at least 3/16 of an inch left right there. At any rate, what I got to do now is, believe it or not, is I have to get into cutting down the wing itself, because like I said, I want to move on back to the quarters now, and in order to do that I have to establish my wing location before any of this is cut, because this will all be flippy floppy once I cut this quarter panel off. So I need to have my wing located here. And as you know, this wing is a cross between the Daytona wing and the Superbird wing. We bought a Superbird wing, and it's cast aluminum, and it has to be cut up in 3 pieces in order to accomplish the design aspect that we want to try to get on this wing. So that's what I'll be moving on to next. And once I get that established, we're going to move on to cutting these quarters off and widen out these quarters and see how that all looks. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so I'm in the process of trying to cut this wing, and plan A is not going to work. Plan A was to stabilize the wing upright in a jig, which I've done here. Got a base. It's basically pinned in at the top, and then I've matched the orientation on the car, which is for that to be vertical over there. So this is about 5 inches to the center line of the wing. Created a base to bolt through here to stabilize that, and then I built this pretty sturdy straight edge here that goes over the wing. And I bought a milling bit for that will fit into this small router here, and with the hopes that it wouldn't clog up and gall up. And unfortunately, that's exactly what it's doing right here. Taking as slow as I can, small passes, and it is not giving me the neat result that I was looking for. So I'm going to have to resort to a something, probably a small, I've got a small metal cutting saw that's a circular saw, has about a 4-inch blade on it, and I'll have to come up with a setup to run that across the in the same fashion. Anyway, moving on to plan B for cutting this wing. Okay, so I've had to come up with this contraption here in order to do this cut. This little flange here, made out of stainless steel, truck and stretched to the shape of the side of the wing, helps elevate the saw on the right-hand side in order to keep it running flat and true across this cut over here. It was a lot of back and forth, but it's given me a much better cut, much cleaner cut. It's not fighting me, and it's not galled up. This stuff is very soft. The softer the aluminum, the harder it is to cut with any kind of machine or anything, especially like a router. It's just it'll just bunch up in the bit. Anyway, moving on. All right, plan C. I wasn't really happy with how dull this metal cutting blade ended up being, and it was taking me forever to adjust this, and I didn't like the amount of control I had over getting a completely vertical cut through this this wing. So I've still got to create a cradle here to catch this piece here, because it's just a hole drilled in the bed over here, and then this is just pinned over here. So if I cut it free, it would fall down against the blade and create havoc. So I've got to get something to secure this half to make sure that once I cut all the way through, that it won't create a mayhem. But anyway, so what I've got here is a saw I bought brand new probably 45 years ago, about 1978. They don't make them anymore. They're called radial arm saws. And with this, I'm able to, since I've got this secured down to the bed here, I'm able to use this like you would use a milling machine. Basically dropping the blade in small increments. There's a crank on the bottom side here, and just one loop brings it down about 3/32 of an inch, and then I can take small cuts as I go across with a carbide tooth blade, and it's cut nice and clean and straight, and I'll be able to cut all the way through. I won't have to set up a secondary jig for the bottom side to cut all the way through, which is what I would have had to do with that other saw. So anyway, wish me luck on cutting this all the way through. I'll cut this section off first, because this will be supported here, and then once I get this piece out and away, then I'll move this into position and finish cutting this one all the way through. Anyway, it just makes it. The saw was just able to raise up high enough with this on the bed and this laying in the proper attitude that it just came across and gave me enough clearance to make this cut. Anyway, moving on. All right, so that didn't work out too badly. This wanted to rock over just a little bit into the saw blade after I completed the cut. So I pulled this back, put this end gusset on for the next cut. Make sure we're at the same angle. At any rate, here you can see I've got this cradle here that's holding it up, and there's a stop back there to keep this from pulling, because the saw is rotating in this direction, and it would want to pull it to the back there. So I have to have something positive for this to stop against. So it is all the way through. Anyway, I got to move this around and finish this cut all the way through. Okay, that's two pieces I ended up with. As you can see, once the wing has been shortened, you can see how much shorter the base needs to be front to rear. So the next cut I'll be making is to take this center section out and telescope these two ends together, leaving my bolt-up points intact. Yeah, so anyway, that worked out okay, and gave me a clean cut, and the surfaces fit together really nicely, although I'll have it gapped when it comes time to weld it all up. Anyway, moving on from here. All right, so here's the base with 2 inches taken out of it. Obviously, it's not going to line up 100% here. It's got a little step, so this will all have to be ground, and this will have to be cut in a gradual taper to blend out with the front half. But this is basically where we're at, how that'll change the shape. Anyway, I already put this up on the car by itself, and we have a downward angle of about 2.5 degrees, which is about anything downwards is better than any lift in the rear at this point. Anyway, okay, I thought I'd just show you this trick I use for trying to locate this bolt pattern here. These bolt holes are recessed in the wing here, so it's not like I just put something over there and kind of smash it in. I have to project them out a little bit. So what I did was I cut the heads off of some bolts that fit in there, and then I just cut a little slot in there so I could put them in with a screwdriver after I cleared out the threads on the aluminum so that it would move in and out if I needed to adjust them. I got them just proud of this plane right here. I have this paper pattern right here. I'll just flip over. There's a number of ways you could do it, I guess. You just kind of rub it and probably you'd see a prominence there. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of a paint. I'm going to put a paint marker, load that head up with a paint marker, then just roll it down and just dab that on each one of these here and try to get that mark so that I have a nice bolt hole layout from this pattern. Okay, so there you can see the how the paint transferred on from the tops of those little bolt heads. Just painted them up one at a time, and then flapped that thing over and squashed them right into the paint. And now I got my layout. Anyway, just thought I'd show you that. Okay, so I'm getting ready to try and remend this base to the upright wing. And the process that I'm using is I'm taking this piece that got cut out of the section here, and I'm making my plates to mend the lower half mechanically to the upper half, through bolting it basically with a plate. And that's what this looks like right here. And the reason I'm using this is because this is already contoured, and it's also heading in the right direction as far as these wings are tilted inboard, and each one of these sides, that's that side, and then this is this side here, it's kicked over at the angle that matches the inside here, obviously, because it came out of the section. At any rate, so what's happening here now is you can see I've got a little step in this part of the mend plate, because this back half is, as you telescope them together, is a little bit narrower, so that's going to require some attention as far as grinding it off to make both parts blend. But that's down the road here a bit. The reason I need to mechanically fasten it is to hold everything in place to get the wing welded up. And so I'll be leaving about a light 1/8 of an inch gap here, and then I'll be beveling this back to get this a nice groove for the weld. Also, I've ordered some aluminum countersink 1/4-20s. Right now I'm just using steel because I don't have those yet. And I'll put the aluminum ones in here before it gets welded up. That way they can be also just welded over. So there'll be a mechanical fastener in here in addition to the weld. Just a little bit more of insurance. At any rate, that's where I am with this, and I'll just keep on going. Okay, so here we are. After a little bit of grinding to try and make these transitions a little bit better. Still needs a little bit more, but these have got to get body worked. As you can see, they're pretty rough casting, so this will be a pretty easy blend out right over here. Main thing was getting the rims so that they flow into each other. So it's got a new footprint. Anyway, this is just mechanically held together from the one side, which I thought I was going to need to bolt it up on both sides in order to get it ready for welding, but these are not moving, so that's pretty good. So I've got it, you can see on this side, I've got all the bolts going through, countersunk into these plates in here, so that'll hold it firm. Comes time, I'll have to back bevel these openings here, give them a little more surface area to be welded. And then, like I said, I'll be putting aluminum bolts into these openings here so that they can just be welded up with the rest of it, and it'll leave the mechanical fastener in there, which will be helpful. At any rate, that's one down, another one to go. Okay, so we got this here setting up on top of the quarter panels now, and our next dilemma is the Superbird wing at the base is wider than the Daytona wing. So what that does is it sets it way out wide on the quarter panels, and it should be sitting right about where that little blue mark is on the green tape right there. And that's because while the wing is the same size side to side, these uprights are splayed out at the base more because rather than having a Coke bottle shape, the Superbird quarter panels come straighter out on the Roadrunner. So to get this on more on center on the Superbird with a wider trunk, this is basically the quarter panels out here is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so we've got to probably cut something out of the center section of the wing, which I got to be careful because it needs to move over about 1 3/4 inches, between 1 3/4 inches, 1 5/8. But as I move it over, because of the angle of the wing, we have to be careful here because we're getting awful close to the trunk lid here, and as far as the edge is concerned. So want to be able to open up the trunk lid, and so I'll have to mess around with this. I looked at changing the angle of the of this piece here, but that puts the bolt hole at an odd angle. You could cut a bevel on this and kick these legs in a little bit, but then you wouldn't have the machined threads that go into the wing wouldn't line up properly. Anyway, so I got to monkey around with that, and we'll move on from here. You know what they say, our stuff's nice because we do it twice. Anyway, the first time I cut this wing, I cut it to make a corrective angle because sitting on the quarter panels on the Charger, the Superbird wing was going uphill. So what I did was I cut about 3 inches out of the front down to about 1.25 inches at the back. And I naturally assumed that it would be 3 inches lower than a stock Daytona wing, which we'd already determined for this particular car, because it's lowered and it's got a squat look to it, that we needed to lower the wing a bit from the stock height. At any rate, got the bases all fixed up and put on the wing. Everything was set it up on the car last night, and just didn't like the way it looked. And then I went and measured my own wing on my car and found out with this section taken out of the Superbird wing, because I was tilting it forward, it was basically just as high as a stock Daytona wing, and that's what was making it look funny. So we took a look at it and came to the conclusion we needed to lower it a little bit more. So it's got a 2 5/8 of an inch taken out of here, almost 3 inches taken out of this section here, and already mocked it up and everything, and it looks fine now. It looks to the scale of the car, if you get my meaning. At any rate, this is where I'm going to stop this week, because I got to go through the same process that I went to create those plates, put the bases back on. Of course, now that I've cut that extra amount off, I have to shorten up the bases a little bit more. This is the how much shorter the base is going to be, which doesn't break my heart, because that means it sits a little bit in further from the gas cap, from here and then to here. It's not crowded up onto this flip or up onto this flip over here. So that works out fine. I still don't know how much I'm going to have to narrow up this top wing in order for it to both bring the two inboard uprights, bring the two uprights a little bit further inboard, and then not interfere with the side of the deck lid as it raises up. To my advantage, we are going to be widening out this quarter quite a bit. So right in this area here, even if I have to take it off the center line a little bit and mount it just a little bit wider, it won't be horrible, because it'll be more centered up on the wider quarter panel, and so it'll be visually okay. But a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and we'll get it tuned in. At any rate, like I said, this week's thumbnail will be of the car with the final mock-up that with the lowered wing, and you could take a look at it for yourself and see how you like the proportions. I just put just the side of the nose on here, just so that I could get a good look at the car, with the wing, and see how that all worked out. At any rate, that's where I'm going to call it this week. Next week, I'm going out of town for Thanksgiving Day, and won't be back in town till probably Sunday next week. So leaving out of here Wednesday, and that means that I'll have a couple days more in the beginning of the week to work on this. And hopefully at that point I can get the wing mounted, and maybe I'll post a video a little bit early next week. We'll see how that goes. Either way, heading to the Turkey Rod Run down in Florida at Daytona Speedway. I've been meaning to get there, but it's been one thing or another each year, and I haven't made it down there. I want to make it down there at least once with my car. And so I'll be down there Thursday and Friday, and coming back on Saturday. If anybody's down there and you want to come by and bend my ear or listen to me rattle on, then you're more than welcome to. At any rate, that's it for now, and I will see you on the next one.